can visit them whenever I want on the radio.
So now when you talk with someone, one of those people, you can put a face with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's just nice. It's just a great way to make friends. I literally can say that I've got friends from coast to coast and around the world that I've talked with, some of whom I've met in person and keep in touch with.
That's where the conventions come in.
The conventions are great because they have a chance. You get a chance to meet people, and of course, I have to say that email is another good way to communicate with all of the people that you meet on the radio.
But it's still nice to actually have a handshake and sit down and talk. Yeah, and it's nice to know that at a certain time, at a certain frequency during the day, whether it's day here, evening over there, and the conditions are right, you can.
Now that little get-together that you have, is that something that's listed up on that webpage too?
Yes.
That frequency and time? Okay.
I'm not sure that all of the frequencies are available right now on the webpage, but they will be shortly. We have a professional working on our web page. However, she's had some personal issues and hasn't been able to get it up as fast as we'd hoped. But we have a moderate site going right now, has some of the information. And there's always contact. There are many contact names and information on that website. People that you can contact by mail or email or telephone number.
Now, if anybody that's watching this show had any interest in asking you a question, sending you an email or something, is there an email address that they could contact you at?
Yes, they could contact me at enoaru@gis.net.
You want to say that one more time, Ian? Maybe we can get it printed up in there.
enoaru@gis.net.
All right, and that, let me just take a wild guess. That address has something to do with your call sign and your husband's call sign.
That's correct. We use the last 3 letters of each of our suffixes to make our email address.
And if they didn't get it, we can always get it, and I'd be glad to pass it. Oh, there it is. It's up there now. They're fast in there, those guys. They're on roller skates back there. I was going to say, you're talking about CW, Morse code. There was a ham here in Braintree that he had a severe stroke that left him pretty well paralyzed, Walter Newman. And I think Walter at the time was married at least 60 years. He used to live up on Liberty Street. And when he was in the hospital, his wife, old school, they were never apart for any length of time. And while he laid in the hospital, he couldn't speak, and she never copied CW. He sent with his fingers what was going on, and she copied it. True story.
Wow.
Yeah. And she, just from being in, she never, I've spoke to her. I think she's deceased now.
Did he live up across from St. Clair's?
Just farther down the street. You go by Peach.
Yeah, right.
Matter of fact, I have a couple of sections. I took his tower down after he passed away.
Right.
Walter was he was I think the chief engineer, electrical engineer for Boston Edison.
Wow.
And this is years ago. And Walter, I knew him. I became acquainted, friends with him. I was just a kid, and I was soldering something one time, and it was radio. It was a 259 connector, and I made the mistake of dipping it in flux, and wrong. He just yelled and screamed at me for 10 minutes. But anyways, Walter's thing, what he wanted to do, he had, I think it was a 60 or 70 foot tower up on Liberty Street, and he wanted to work simplex on 2 meters to Springfield, which, I mean, you can do. It's not a big deal, especially up there. No, but this was FM, because at that time 2 meters was just coming out, and that was his big deal. And when we took that after Walter, God rest his soul, passed away, we went up, myself and this Teddy Dimmons, and we're both up in the tower, and not being really familiar on how to dismantle a tower, he had it guyed in 2 sections. To get up there, we took the guys off. Now we're 70 foot in the air, and then we couldn't get the 8-foot top section off. So I went home and I had a Volkswagen Rabbit at that time, and I got a steel plate, and I used the jack, and I just wound it up. Well, when I went back up the tower was really blowing in the breeze. The only thing between us and the Prudential Tower was a helicopter that was going into South Weymouth Naval Air and was saying, "Don't come too close,
yeah.
you're going to blow us down." But I remember Teddy Demons said to me, "One of us has to get off this tower." And all he seen was the top of my head go by him. Teddy was shorter, but we finally got it down. But it was a rude awakening not to break guys before you start dismantling.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting back to the CW section, I believe that Whitman is still having classes. They'll probably be starting up. They usually start up in the fall or winter.
I haven't heard of any program. I think if they do, it might be right after the first of the year, because this is usually a busy time.
So if anybody is interested that's watching these, viewing these shows we're doing, if they're interested in amateur radio, male, female, old, young, or whatever, if they want to get in touch with me, you can either get in touch with me at k1wn@aol.com, or you can get us at the studio and just leave your name, and I'll be glad to get back to you. And I'll get a hold of the people down in Whitman and see if they are going to have a class. They're probably still. They just got through the Thanksgiving. They were down.
They just did the thing at the Plymouth Plantation.
Down at the plantation,
yeah. That's always a good time.
And there are many resources for studying for your license.
Yeah, we also. What's that test online?
Hamtestonline.com.
Hamtestonline.
That's right. That's another whole web study.
Yeah,
and
course.
And the HRT.org. I
right.
think if they go into there, they can find something.
Pick up books to study, or you can, depending on your style, you can do it on the computer, you can do it in books, or you can do it in classes, or a combination of all three.
And there's no more Morse code or CW? There's only
there's no
classes.
requirement.
No
Let's
requirements.
clarify that
There.
now, Bill, because there's a lot of us that still
I was
using that.
I was actually on last night. I was on. I got on.
It's not a requirement, but I find more people that are interested in doing it now that it's not a requirement.
I think that's not a real surprise to me.
Right.
When you start making something mandatory, it becomes a lot more interesting.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was activity on 80 on the novice section last night. Yeah, which I was kind of surprised to hear, and there was a few stations in there from Michigan and Ohio, and they're doing some CW. And
we even have one of our cameramen here is an aspiring CW operator.
KB1TOM.
That's correct. That's right.
He'll be on the air shortly.
That's right.
Yeah. He's like, hey, it's that first contact.
That's right.
My first contact.
I'm pushing him maybe a little bit more than I should, but I'm pushing him to make that this weekend.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have a report on that on a future show.
I do remember one episode of when I did do CW for an event. It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Marconi event down in Wellfleet.
In 78?
30 years ago.
In the 1978 one?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I had laryngitis, so I couldn't talk.
So you used the key?
I worked somebody in Malta, I think. I don't know.
But at that time, if you got your general class license right around that time, that meant that at that time you had passed a 13-word per minute test, so you probably were at your most proficient stage.
Yeah, I had passed a 13 test. I was probably good at about 7. But
okay. Yeah.
Well, I
think I could get it back again if I worked at it.
It comes right back to you, because last night when I was saying about being on the novice section on 80, it was a 2x1 call in the send and CQ.
So obviously an extra class.
An extra class down in the novice section, looking, and he wasn't sending fast, and somebody came back to him real fast, and he ignored them. He did, because he wasn't looking for that. He was looking for somebody.
Well, it's possible there's a new extra who did not pass the code test. And
yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, I never thought of that.
He could be learning.
Yeah, that's correct. But the lower end of 20 meters for CW. You can either, go along at 60, or you can just, hum along at 10 or 15. I mean, nothing to tell them to slow down. Yeah, I know you don't have any problems. You get in, I watch you with the key. You're second nature with you. All of a sudden he's clammed, right? I was going to say...
We joke around about the whole thing with Morse code, but I don't want to make it sound as though it's something where there's two different classes of hams or whatever. I mean, there's so many different areas that you can be interested in, and I was one of the big advocates of the whole thing of dropping the Morse code requirement simply because some people didn't even want to attempt to try to become licensed because they were intimidated by that. But they had so much to, the hobby had so much to offer them, and they had so much to offer the hobby,